Far beyond the known world, beyond the edge of maps, lies a land shrouded in myth and mystery. The ancient Greeks spoke of it as a paradise beyond the north wind, a place of eternal sunlight, long-lived peoples, and knowledge that surpassed human understanding. They called it Hyperborea. Some say it was a myth, a poetic symbol of purity and peace, but others say it was and still is a real place. Let's get into it. Modern science revealed that during certain periods of the Holocene, the current geological epoch that began roughly 11,700 years ago at the end of the last ice age, the poles were not frozen wastelands as we know today. The Arctic and Antarctic once thrived as temperate green worlds, lush with forests, rivers, and life. Fossilized plants and the remains of ancient creatures discovered in Antarctica and Greenland tell the story of a time when these icy frontiers were vibrant and alive, long before cataclysmic shifts turned them into the icy realms that guard their secrets today. Whenever I come across a map of the Arctic, I cannot help but study it closely, looking for proof of Hyperborea, whether it once existed, still exists, or has been deliberately erased. This is the North Polar map, and this is the South Polar map. They form a matching pair, both designed by August Heinrich Petermann, the chief cartographer and editor of the Gotha German publishing house in 1875. And the reason I'm showing you the South Pole map when this episode is about the North is to show you this insert of the Arctic here that depicts Greenland going all the way through the Arctic, almost reaching the shores of Kamchatka in Russia. Was this a misconstrued version of Hyperborea, or were they already toning it down before erasing it completely? What's strange is on the Arctic map, drawn by the very same cartographer in the same year, this feature is completely missing. So what changed? Maybe this was the exact moment when big world governments began quietly redrawing the world, when certain lands were erased, censored, or hidden away from public record. Some conspiracy theorists claim governments have deliberately hidden this knowledge. Ancient civilizations, hidden lands, and advanced technology are all considered threats to modern authority. By controlling what appears on maps and suppressing expedition reports, humanity is kept from questioning their narrative. On the actual 1595 Hyperborea map by Gerardus Mercator, one detail has always stood out to me. The Latin word pygmy, written across one of the four islands, said to surround the North Pole. I've known about the pygmies of Hyperborea for years, but it was only while researching this episode that I uncovered something new, the origin story of the pygmies of Hyperborea. For this, we need to travel back in time to 985 AD. Let's get into it. When Eric the Red and the Norse settlers from Iceland arrived in Greenland around 985 AD, they established colonies that lasted for centuries. But by the 1400s, those settlements, once home to thousands, had completely vanished. History books say no one knows why, but I believe we do. Life in Greenland was brutal. Endless months of darkness, bitter cold, and isolation. Yet according to Marshall B. Gardner's A Journey to the Earth's Interior, the mystery runs far deeper than weather or famine. The early Norwegians or Norse who first encountered the Inuit, a respectful term replacing the outdated Eskimo, did not see them as ordinary people. They regarded them as supernatural beings, a race of fairy like entities. The Inuit of Greenland spoke of their origin, a land bathed in eternal sunlight far to the north. The Inuit people of northern Canada share similar stories. Their oral traditions tell of ancestors who came far from the north, from a hidden inner world beneath the polar ice, a land of light, warmth, and life from which they migrated to the surface. Were they describing Hyperborea or another gateway to the inner earth? To the Norse, such tales carried deep spiritual meaning. They believed the far north was a mystical frontier, a place where the veil between worlds grew thin, home to shining gods, ancient spirits, and forces beyond mortal comprehension. So when they encountered these mysterious people, it was only natural to assume they came from a realm beneath or beyond the earth, the legendary domain of fairies, gnomes, and divine beings. The Norse word for Inuit, Skraeling, originally referred to mystical beings. This belief persisted, and even later European explorers who encountered the Inuit in the frozen wastes of Greenland described the same eerie feeling, that they were meeting beings from another world. In Latin writings, the word Skraeling was translated as pygmy, small supernatural people. The same beings were said in antiquity to inhabit Thule, the legendary land beyond the north wind, a realm of endless light and mystery. But here's where it gets strange. The United States once named their northernmost base on Greenland Thule, a name straight out of legend. Was it just a coincidence, or did they know something we weren't supposed to know? If you want to dive deeper into the secrets of Greenland and what might really be hidden there, check out my Alien Megalith and US Space Force in Greenland episode on the White Rabbit 4090. This northern paradise was known by many names. Thule, Hyperborea, two titles for what was essentially the same land at the top of the world. To the Greeks, it was Hyperborea or Arctos, the sunlit home of godlike beings. To later Romans, it became Ultima Thule, the farthest reach of the earth, a place near the pole where the ocean itself froze into a solid mass. There is, however, another explanation as to what may have happened to the lost Norse of Greenland. As I mentioned in my Conspiracies of Canada episode, the Chinese treasure fleet of 1418 may have chanced upon the last surviving Norse of Greenland and transported them to Newfoundland, known as Vinland to the Norse. Personally, I lean towards their exodus to Hyperborea, or perhaps even to the inner earth itself. This idea was later echoed in Disney's 1974 film, The Island at the Top of the World, a story about explorers discovering a land of warmth and light beyond the Arctic Circle, inhabited by Viking descendants speaking an ancient dialect, a haunting reminder of a lost Norse heritage. And as we all know, sometimes even the wildest tales from Hollywood carry whispers of a deeper truth hidden just beneath the surface of fantasy. The heart of Hyperborea pulses with crystalline energy, towering quartz spires that hum with harmonic resonance. channeling Earth's ley lines and natural energy fields. Their cities are alive with vibration and sound, built through frequency rather than force. Healing is achieved not through medicine, but through vibration, tone, and crystal harmonics, tuning the body like a living instrument. Just as the Nakals, Atlanteans, and Tartarians later mirrored. You can check out the Chakras, Tartaria, and even the Conspiracy of Music Frequencies episode if you want to dig a little deeper into the old world healing frequencies. As revealed in my episodes on Atlantis and Mu, these ancient civilizations were not isolated wonders, but interconnected offshoots from a single primordial source. The Hyperboreans, the Nakals of Mu, the Atlanteans, Lemurians, and Tartarians, all part of the same great lineage of beings who once guided Earth. Some say Hyperborea was the first light from which all others descended. A sacred realm of origin remembered in myths as the paradise before the fall. Perhaps even the source of the legends we now call Eden. Others believe Hyperborea remains a sanctuary, preserved and hidden, waiting for the world to awaken once more. Maybe that is why throughout history, humanity has been warned away from the north, why explorers vanish, why maps blur, and why ancient texts speak in riddles. These whispers from the past lead us directly to legends of Hyperborea across cultures and centuries. In ancient Greece, the name itself means beyond Boreas, the god of the north wind, said to lie in a land far north of Thrace, entirely free of winter. The ancient Greek poet Pindar described it as a paradise above the Arctic Circle, where the sun never sets. Herodotus, a Greek historian and geographer, spoke of the peaceful people who lived far to the north, offering sacred gifts to Apollo and remained untouched by war or disease. Diodorus Siculus, in his Bibliotheca Historica, described Hyperborea as a magnificent island with fertile fields and extraordinary temples. Among these, a temple of Apollo, larger than any other ever seen, symbolizing the spiritual and cultural heights of the Hyperboreans. Every 19 years, Apollo himself was said to visit Hyperborea, rejuvenating, feasting, and communing with his chosen people, interacting with the divine as equals. The Hyperboreans also sent offerings to Delphi, carried by swans and maidens. Apollo drew his power not from Olympus, but from this civilization beyond the north wind. But Greek accounts are only part of the story. The Vedic texts, which are the foundational scriptures of Hinduism, originally passed down orally and later written in Vedic Sanskrit, speak of the Utakuru or Soitadri, a northern land of radiant beings where wisdom and harmony reigned, with perpetual fruit-bearing trees, gold-filled sand, and inhabitants with no greed or private property. In Norse sagas, the far north is home to the shining Aesir gods, guardians of cosmic order and divine knowledge. And in Persian mythology, Ariana Vaija, which literally means the expanse or homeland of the Aryans, was said to be a radiant land to the far north, a noble people guided by light and divine wisdom. Centuries later, this ancient myth would be twisted by the Nazis, particularly under Heinrich Himmler, who became obsessed with proving that the Germanic race had descended from these legendary Aryans. Through secret societies like the Annenerbe, expeditions were sent to Tibet, see the Mount Kailash episode, Antarctica, and of course the Arctic, in search of remnants of this supposed origin race and their homeland beyond the polar ice. Hyperborea, a surviving remnant of the primordial Aryan civilization from which they claimed divine ancestry. But before the Nazi expeditions, there was another story, older and far more mysterious. In the early 1900s, a Norwegian sailor named Olaf Jansen and his father traveled north by sea, eventually reaching the river that flows inward, one of the four colossal rivers said to lead to the inner earth itself. Ancient lore speaks of four vast land masses, all surrounding the polar center, with four massive rivers converging on a single point, the Blackstone or Rupe Nigra. The Rupe Nigra, a mountain of immense magnetic force, barren and lifeless, where the roaring currents converge towards the heart of the earth, was first described in the Inventio Fortunata, a 1370 chronicle of a voyage to the far north, commissioned by King Edward III of England. Though no copies of the manuscript survive, secondary accounts tell of a massive magnetic rock at the pole, surrounded by a colossal whirlpool, dividing the polar lands into four vast islands or continents. The Blackstone is not mere legend, but a fragment of lost history, something powerful and forbidden that still lies hidden at the top of the world. To this day, flights are prohibited from crossing directly over the poles. Otherwise, they would be drawn off course by the curvature of the inner hollow earth opening, just as Admiral Byrd was, as I introduced in the Missing Journal episode. These restrictions continue to shield the vast opening that leads directly into the heart of our planet. Now let's go back to Olaf Jansen's account. Their small craft was seized by one of the irresistible currents, drawn ever inward as the cliffs of Hyperborea flashed past. No calm shore to land upon, no escape from the pull of the earth itself. In his own words,
"We were driven by a swift current we could not control. The water seemed alive, drawing us onward with irresistible force."
When at last the roaring subsided, they found themselves beneath a soft inner glow, not the sun we know, but a radiant orb suspended in the sky. Olaf and his father knew they had not landed in Hyperborea itself. Everything was colossal. The vegetation towered like ancient forests. Fruits and vegetables grew to impossible sizes, and the people, giant in stature, moved with grace and intelligence. Prehistoric creatures reminiscent of Jules Verne's journey to the center of the earth, long vanished from the surface, still roamed freely. His extraordinary account, later published as The Smoky God, remains one of the most vivid testimonies of a journey beyond Hyperborea's cliffs into the inner earth. A story that will for sure be covered in a full dedicated episode in the near future. According to ancient accounts, Hyperborean communication was done telepathically, mind to mind. Astral voyagers could leave their bodies to traverse realms beyond the physical, unbound by distance or gravity. Think of Ace Ventura seeking for answers in the 1995 movie When Nature Calls. Alrighty then. Hyperborean cities were aligned with the stars, tuned like living instruments to the Earth's magnetic fields. Here was a civilization of astonishing mastery, where spirituality, technology, and consciousness were all woven into a single reality, a realm that seemed to exist on the threshold between myth and history. What do you think? Could Hyperborea have been a real place erased in a cataclysmic pole shift? Or does it still exist today, hidden beyond the Arctic Circle, guarding one of the main entrances to the inner hollow Earth? Let me know your thoughts and your questions in the comments below. I always reply. Perhaps the truth was never lost, merely erased, removed from maps, concealed by governments, and dismissed as myths. Out of sight, out of mind. Because if Hyperborea still exists, it means the oldest legends weren't legends at all, but memories. And as always, I'm not saying this and every story I share is 100% true. I'm just telling a story, and you can dig deeper and believe what you want. Uncovering the truth, one conspiracy at a time. See you next week on the White Rabbit 4090.